Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Kick Off Your Damn Heels, where I have my colleague, Michelle Vasicek, who is a transformational nutrition coach. And today we're going to talk about a lot of stuff, but primarily intuitive eating, which is a fascinating topic and something I need to learn about. All right, so Michelle, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, yeah, thank you for having me on. I'm really excited about this. So, yeah, I came through as a transformational nutrition coach through my own journey, right? I didn't wake up one day and decide I'm going to go to school for nutrition. It was more,
I think that's a lot of people, right?
yeah. So I don't have formal education there, but I have a lot of hands-on experience with myself and now clients and friends and family. And so I actually have a degree in business.
That's perfect.
Imagine that. Yeah. So I decided to get certified through Institute of Transformational Nutrition. And as you know, they focus on not just the science of nutrition, but also the emotional and spiritual aspects of it. And the science module was first, and I was like, oh, like snooze, this is not my jam. Right? There's people out there who read research studies for fun, and that's their thing. And I was like, it was a struggle to get through that part for me, right? And then we got to the emotional and the spiritual modules, and I was like, whoa, this is awesome. Like healing all these emotional wounds around, food and connecting spiritually and all of that sort of thing. And I was like, this is where I live. This is this is what I'm meant to do. And
I just want to say that it was the opposite for me because I'm in psychology so much and so hard that I was like, in those modules, I'm like, snooze fest. Give me to the science, man. Yes.
Yeah. It's so crazy how that works. Yeah, I'm very glad there's people on your side, on the science side of things, because I'm just like, nope.
Yeah. Exactly. Now, you have an interesting thing that people call you, and I just need to bring this up, and we need to bring it out, and I want to talk about why, because I think it's a funny title. So what do people call you?
Yeah, so I had a client that I was working with. It hasn't been more than a year ago at this point. And at that point, I was just kind of branding myself with my own name because I'm like, I don't want to come up with some creative name or whatever. And if something comes up, so be it, right? Well, the universe delivered because one of my clients sent me a screenshot of her, her phone. And she's like, hey, I saved you in my contacts as the Weight Witch. And I'm like, that's genius. I'm like, I'm going to steal that. Okay. She's like, yeah, please do. Go for it. So now I'm the Weight Witch. And it was crazy because I'm like, somebody else out there has to be the Weight Witch, right? Because there's alliteration, it's short, it's catchy.
Right.
So weightwitch.com was wide open.
Really?
and Instagram was open. And I was just like, this is my thing. I'm going to take it. Yeah. So, but it fits perfect, right? Because I do work on that emotional, spiritual side of things, and now we're starting to get more science backing up all of this quantum physics and all of this stuff happening in our bodies. But I think for the most part in our general culture, all of the stuff is still kind of that witchy woo-woo stuff that's kind of quote unquote out there. So that's how I became the Weight Witch.
That's really a funny story. And I think it's great that you capitalized on it, by the way. Because most people would have been like, no, I'm not going to grab a hold of this. And you're like, yes, it's mine.
All right. Yeah. I'm not a Weight Witch. I'm the Weight Witch.
The Weight Witch.
I'm going to own it.
The Weight Witch. Yeah, exactly. You have to own that. All right. So let's get in and talk about intuitive eating and why is it important? What is it first? Let's talk about what it is first.
Yeah. Let's talk about that. So, and the thing that I work with clients, and I found this in myself too, is we're always looking for some outside authoritative person to tell us what to do, what to eat, what diet's best, what medications to be taking.
We're supposed to be on.
Right. Like we just want to be told what to do. And the thing is there's no diet that's one size fit all for everybody. We're all different, right? Like I've got gluten intolerance. If I have a little teeny tiny speck of gluten, I'm out for 3 days. Miserable. Other people can eat a hamburger with a bun and, deep fried onion rings and a beer, and they're fine.
Well, so I gotta say, they think they're fine because they don't know that they're not yet fine. How about that?
Yeah. Right. But I mean, they're not incapacitated, like in bed and on the toilet back and forth for, a full 48 hours at least. Right. It's survivable. And I have friends that are even more sensitive than me, and something like that would put them in the hospital.
Wow.
So it's just, we have to go, and each food is different, and not just person by person, but personally from day to day and season to season. Our bodies are constantly changing. So it really bothers me when somebody's like, oh, well, here's this diet and you can lose weight and get healthy and follow this plan exactly because it worked for me. Like, well, I'm not you. How do you know that's going to work for me? So that's why, really our bodies know what they need on an intuitive level, even if there are things, like nutrient deficiencies and things like that. And I'm not saying don't go get lab tested, right? Because that's really useful information to be working with a practitioner and to be able to get testing and find out what's going on in our bodies. But our bodies, if we really tune in, we can at least get those red flags and say, hey, there's something going on here. Something's not quite right. And listen to that instead of having somebody else decide what's best for us.
Okay. So you talk a lot about tuning in, and I don't know about you, but I work with a lot of clientele with mental health issues, and a lot of them are not very tuned in or present with their bodies. So let's talk a little bit about how you can help someone tune in, so that they know, like tapping into their own intuition, correct?
Yeah. And I actually, I think I've mentioned this before, but I made a gift that we can send out to people listening. I recorded an audio that they can download. And in there, I've got 2 techniques that they can use.
Hold on one second. I'm just going to let everybody know that link will be in the show notes. So have no fears, everyone. It'll be.
I'll get it to you.
All right.
Yeah. So there's 2 techniques in there, and we'll go through a little bit today, but those are nice to have. So one of them is going to be practical for like how you can use, at the grocery store or at a restaurant, where you're standing in your own kitchen and helping decide what you want to eat. And then the other one is actually a recorded tapping, going through the tapping points. And if you haven't heard about that, that's amazing. You need to try it.
We're going to talk about that a little bit too, because that's something I've not yet talked about on the show.
Yeah. So that's really cool too, because that's one that you can like go back and replay, but it's more of it's tapping to say, okay, I recognize that I'm not super in touch with my own body and my own needs right now. And where do I even start to get there? Right. So that helps reprogram that subconscious so that we're saying, okay, I'm listening now. But for right now, why don't we just take 3 breaths and just ground. So
go ahead and walk everybody through this.
So let's just take a deep breath in through your nose. And if it's safe, if you're not like driving or something like that, go ahead and close your eyes. Sometimes that helps, but if that feels, destabilizing, obviously keep your eyes open. And then deep breath out. If through your nose feels good, if through your mouth feels good, if you want to let out a big old sigh, that feels good too. Just let it all out.
Your vagus nerve loves the sighing, by the way.
Yeah, it feels good. My husband makes fun of me because I'll just like make these weird sighs. He's like, I'm like, try it. It
feels so good.
Yoga class doing lion's breath. All right, so we'll do 2 more breaths together. So in through the nose. Let it all out. It just feels better already. I can feel the energy. So yeah. All right, so 1 more deep breath in. Let it all out. Yeah, so just that, I mean, if you can feel a shift in your own body, I felt it. It's just more focused, And that's all you need to do to start, and start listening. How am I really feeling about this situation, instead of being all up in our heads about, well, I should do this, or so-and-so said that, or whatever, and bring it back into our hearts and our bodies and feel what's there.
So could somebody do this if they were like in the middle of like a binge eating or thinking about doing it, or when would someone use this technique?
Yeah. Oh, I just got goosebumps. Okay. So personal story time here. I love
Okay.
an example because I'm human and I
please do it.
That's right.
Yeah. Why do you think I have the podcast? Because how wacky I am.
Yeah. I don't eat perfectly. Weird.
Right.
Yeah.
Weird. I am just perfect. So
yeah. Okay. So I had a really, really hard day. It was earlier this year, and we had found out some really bad news about a loved one's diagnosis. We were dealing with cancer, and it was a really emotionally intense time, right? And so I was there for them, trying to support them emotionally, and just kind of temporarily setting my own feelings aside, because I was like, I don't even want to deal with this right now. I'm trying to help them through this. And do that. Yeah, right. We do that as healers. We're like, let me take care of everybody else before we take care of ourselves. And I got home and I was just like, it all just kind of started to hit me at once. And I'm like, I don't want to deal with this right now. What I really want is a pint of Ben & Jerry's. And then this little, light bulb went off. It was probably like a cartoon. A light bulb went off above my head. I'm like, hey, Michelle, that's emotional eating.
Yeah, it's like a cartoon bubble up there going,
We've recognized the situation before. Like, are you sure you really want to do this? And, at that point in the day, I was so exhausted. I was like, I don't really have the capacity to, like, hold that sort of space for myself right now. And I was like, here's the deal. I'm going to eat this ice cream. And if at any point it feels unenjoyable and not tasting good, like, I can stop. I don't have to eat the whole pint because we're not, I'm just going to go all the way because I started. And then I'm going to schedule a time. I don't remember if it was the exact next day or like 2 days later, but I made space in my schedule so that evening I had like 2 or 3 hours to just do whatever I needed to do. And so I did that. I ate the ice cream and I enjoyed it. And I'm very careful about in those situations now where I'm not feeling guilty about it. I'm not feeling like I shouldn't be. I'm not putting all these judgments on top of it, right? I'm like, I'm just going to eat this ice cream. And then when I came up to my scheduled time, again, I'm still not feeling guilty about the ice cream. I shouldn't have done that, whatever. Because that, honestly, that's the worst part of it, right? Like, not that junk food isn't good for you.
Yeah, afterward is often the worst part.
Yeah, there's like an emotional hangover to it, and you're being all hard on yourself. So when it came up to my scheduled time, I think I basically just sat there and I intended to do a meditation session. And I was listening to a recorded guided meditation, and I took it off maybe a few minutes in, and I just sat there and cried for like an hour and a half, close to 2 hours. And that's what I needed, to just be there with my feelings and go through those emotions. Mm-hmm. And then after that, I was, it's not that the situation was gone, but I had that space to be there for myself and everybody else. And it wasn't that like super grippy, overpowering thing. But it's like, if I had done that a different way and been like, maybe not realize that I was, stuffing my emotions down with ice cream. When you stuff those emotions down, they don't just go away. It's quite literally sweeping stuff under a rug. It's still there, and it's going to come back later.
With a vengeance, typically.
With a vengeance. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, with intuitive eating, it's information, right? So pay attention to the information that your body is giving you. And if you decide to use that, however, that's fine. That's not saying, oh, well, now that I recognize that I'm stuffing my emotions down with food, I have to stop that. There are situations where I'm like, I'm actually eating this chocolate bar because I'm bored right now, mm-hmm. And then I put it away. and that's fine. There's other situations I don't always, stuff my emotions down with ice cream or whatever. But I have a choice now. I feel like there's more fluidity there in recognizing what's happening.
I talk about this a lot in the same respects as I talk about addictions. It is often just eating like ice cream or whatever is the solution to an emotional problem, right? Mm-hmm. It's like your best solution sometimes in the moment, right? And so knowing that it's a solution to some emotional problem allows you then to choose other solutions, as well, that actually might, I don't want to say solve the emotion, because I don't believe that emotions need to be solved, but I think to experience the emotion. How about that?
Yeah. That's exactly it. Yep. The emotions, they need to be experienced and felt, and then they run their course, and then they're done.
They're done. Exactly. So I want to talk a little bit about this tapping, because I think it's becoming something more prevalent, especially in the coaching industry. So let's talk a little bit about what that tapping is, and help everyone to understand, because it's weird. Like it's a weird thing. Well, I do EMDR. Well, it sounds weird to say I do EMDR, but I help clients by using EMDR, which is also extremely weird. So now, people are talking about this tapping, which is also weird. So let's just talk about some of the weird shit we do to help people. How about that?
Hi, welcome to my world. Weird shit to help people. Yeah. Can we trademark that?
Wait. You're already what is it?
The weight witch.
The weight witch.
That can be the tagline.
That'll help you. That's perfect. The universe gives you slogans and all this kind of stuff. So
it just falls in my lap.
Exactly.
That's how I work. Yeah. Tapping. Okay, so basically it's you're taking your fingers and tapping gently, not like hard taps, on acupuncture points on your body. And what that does is it calms down your nervous system, so that the words that you're saying, and typically, you can use it differently, but typically what we'll do is we'll sort of deprogram some kind of thought or belief that we're having, or emotions, and take that, out, or like at least sort of de-escalate it so it's not so powerful. And then we reprogram with a new thought or a new belief or a new emotion. And the point of the tapping is that, because talking about something and then all these emotions start coming up and we get into this habitual programming, all these scripts in our head that are on repeat over and over and over again. So tapping on these points calms down our nervous system so that we can get into that subconscious and actually get into that deeper level of programming in our bodies and our minds. Because you can't just be like, oh, I'm angry about the situation, I'm just going to decide to be happy about it now. Like, how's that working for you?
Well, you had a pretty valid point about already being on repeat, So if we're talking, that's all we're doing is talking and talking and talking. All we're doing is taking that neurological pathway and continuing it.
Exactly.
Right? So we're just kind of lather, rinse, repeat, So I'm not saying anyone that talking through is not a good idea, but I'm saying if that's all we do is just talk about it and we don't do anything with it or help our brain to process it in a different way or feel it in a different way, then really we're just repeating the same thing over and over again. Right?
Yeah.
So EFT is pressure points. Is that what you're saying?
Well, they're acupuncture points.
Acupuncture points. Okay.
Yeah. Or you can do acupressure too. It's like acupuncture.
They're similar,
needles.
right?
Yeah, but there's all these. It comes from like Chinese medicine, like the meridians, and there's all these different points on our body, and they all do different things. And I think intuitively we kind of tap, at least maybe I do. Maybe I'm,
Well, I think about like when people have headaches, they
right,
usually
they have
like,
headaches.
right.
Yeah, they'll go to the temples,
or their eyebrow area.
Like play with their chin or their beard, you know, and kind of
Sure.
tap there. Or like, I know I used to, I'm getting better about it, but I used to like pick at my fingers, you know, kind of on my cuticles. Well, guess what? We have points on like the insides of our fingers right there, you know, so it's sort of a self-soothing thing that I would pick at my fingers there. So now I try to tap instead on the sides.
Okay, so in full self-disclosure, like I got into this weird habit of like doing that finger picking thing.
Yeah.
And my husband goes, "You got to stop that." I'm like, I don't even realize that I'm doing it. But about a month ago, I made a very conscious effort to stop. But I still find myself like putting my thumb to my fingertip.
Yeah, because it's soothing.
Yeah. So I think I just need to tap, like really do it in a mindful manner, you know, and do that instead. So it's another thing that my body's just looking for something, and I need to give to it what it wants, you know, without, you know, destroying my cuticles in the process, right?
Right? Yeah. You're like, bringing it to like, that's it. Especially it gets so dry in the winter. Like
I know.
Where they're bleeding, and I'm like, this is gross. Why am I doing this to my body?
All I have to say is this was a really good support group between you and I, Michelle, today. So I feel in very good company. Again, we are
any of this just to help ourselves,
right?
Help extra people along the way. Great.
We're only human, everybody. We are only human, and we do human things and have to self-correct and all that stuff. You know, nobody is perfect, right? There's absolutely nobody perfect.
I put that on my vision board this year, just a big being human.
Oh yeah, that's perfect.
And my friend was over last night. She's like, "Are you having problems being human lately?" I'm like, kinda. I feel like I should be superhuman sometimes.
You know, it's hard when you're in the healing or helping profession, because, you know, it's like people look to you for answers, right, in some way, and you don't have all their answers, number one. But number two, there is a hardcore pressure to be perfect or do all the things, you know, that you're supposed to. And if we can just pick some things to do consistently, you know, like being more intuitive, you know, being more in touch with ourselves and what our bodies need is extremely important. Now, will it mean that everything is going to be perfect? Probably not, because nothing is ever perfect, you know. But will it improve things? Yeah. You know, so that's what we're looking for, is just a little bit of self-improvement, right?
Yep. That's
right.
Exactly it.
All right. Any final words of wisdom that you have? You're like, I'm out of wisdom.
No, I mean, we covered so much, but just circling back, you know, and stop looking for that outside authority, because whether you're working, you know, with a coach or a therapist or anyone like that, you know, what they really need to do is reflect it back to you, you know, and see what you really need. You know, it's not that they can't ever bring outside ideas, right? Like if I'm working with a client or something, I'll be like, hey, let's try this tapping thing. And they're like, what's tapping? You know, but all tapping is getting back to themselves. So, you know, you're smarter than you think. You're more intuitive than you think. Your body knows more than you give it credit for.
Absolutely. 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 Yeah. I love that. You're smarter than you think, because you definitely are. All the answers actually lie within you. So you just have to be able to tap into that intuition.
Yep.
All right. Okay. So your free download for everyone is going to be in the show notes. So that's going to be pretty exciting. You're the first audio download of my show. Woohoo! Everyone else just does sheets. And I'm like, yay, I like audios. They're fun.
You know what? It's funny because I originally intended to do this as like a download, you know, sort of script that you could go through yourself.
Yeah.
It was just like, I'm not feeling this. And I like kept putting it on the back burner. And I'm like, oh, this needs to be an audio.
Yeah.
And as soon as I decided that, I had it done like the next day, recorded, edited, done. It took me like, an hour and a half to do the whole thing. And I was like, intuition, thank you.
Yeah.
I listened to that for the 3 weeks. I was trying to make that.
You've been like stressed out, like, oh, I got to make this thing. And you're like, wait a minute, audio. But I got to say, Michelle, so having a guided imagery on a piece of paper is really hard because you're trying to read it and do it and read it and do it. And you're not in it then you're not in it at all. So an audio is fantastic. So I hope everybody enjoys what Michelle has to offer. So very cool. All right. Well, we're going to wrap this episode up, and intuition is key. So I was so thankful to have you on the show. It was really fun and I enjoyed our talk, and I'm sure I'll have you on again. Okay, Michelle?
Oh yeah. I want to come back. There's so much to talk about.
All right. Take care, everyone. And we will talk next time.